we've published a portfolio from Jane in the magazine, but one of the very first people I met in St. Louis was Jane's sister Sarah. And because I came to St. Louis late in life, I was oblivious to the fundamental St. Louis identity question. Where'd you go to high school? The Birdsall sisters went to Southwestern High School in Flint, Michigan, although Sarah opted out to Interlochen. And I went to Evanston High School in the northern suburbs of Chicago. And so, as similar refugees, we've always had the chance to exchange witticisms on this subject. I want to say about Jane that I admired her work for, oh my gosh, at least 5 years before I got my courage up to say, hello, I like your work. Because Jane's diverse practice includes a lot of things that require experience and exposure in real space. She's worked with visual art, with poetry, with sculpture, with photography, and at her core, her work is about the relationship between those things, those fashion things, and the language we would find to express them. So, she'll talk to you in a moment about the Dictionary Poem Project, which is a portfolio in our pages, and which addresses our assumptions about the objective definitions of words, which are challenged by the emerging narratives which carry them off in Jane's facsimiles of dictionary definitions. Every word in every dictionary is the opportunity to say something like this. Let me tell you a story. Jane Birdsall-Lander.
Well, it's very exciting to be here at the Kranzberg High-Low Literary venue. And I think St. Louis is so lucky to have this and in need of it, and I think it'll be very much used. And I thank Buzz and the staff at December, and I thank all my friends and new friends who have come here. It's exciting to see the Dictionary Poem Project Edition 2 published in December's handsome new volume. And I'm equally happy for the chance to talk a little bit about my process, bringing text and image together. Over the years, my main body of artwork has explored and developed relationships between language, object, and human experience. My work ranges from small-scale fetish-like figures accompanied by original poems to room-size installations of objects and poetry to meditations on the origin of our modern alphabet. For more information, images, and poetry that more than you would want, you can visit my website, www.rootlanguage.com. For those of you who may not be familiar with my artwork, here are a couple of images of fairly recent sculptural pieces.
Point it at the projector. Jane, point it at the projector.
No, that's not necessary.
Oh, back.
It's right up here.
Hmm?
It's right up here, the projector.
That's not necessary. Not to, no.
I did it before and it worked.
It worked a minute.
Hmm?
It just worked before, but when you turn the other way.
Point it at the
the screen. Point it at the screen.
I'm pointing, no, I did point it at
Well,
this.
it did work once.
It did?
Where's the photograph when you need this?
The other arrow.
The backward arrow, okay. I don't know where it is. Okay, so here's a gallery view at Duane Reade Gallery. And this was called The Poetry of Objects, which was a body of three-dimensional work based on ancient letter forms. The human story fascinates me, and as I learned more about the origin of language, I found that each of the letters of our modern alphabet are a time capsule that hold traces and mutations of our ancient ancestors' efforts to communicate by way of graphic marks and drawings. This is an image of a piece called Ancestor from this show. It's based on the pictographic origins of the letter N. Original associations include fish, sea snake, or fish hidden in the ocean depths. For the wood structure, I used parts of abandoned wooden artifacts, such as scythe handles, which are called snaths, and parts from an old shoe rack from Brown Shoe Company. Then I obsessively bound this object that was constructed with hand-painted waxed linen.
Please move the microphone.
Oh, more? Okay, sorry. Oh. The Dictionary Poem Project differs in that it involves my written text in the form of a dictionary poem in combination with an image I've chosen that relates but does not literally illustrate the text of the poem. The solar eclipse that occurred here in 2017 was a pretty profound experience for me, and it may have been for many of you. You know, we got the colander out and saw that the moon going through the small holes made moons, and much more of the entire day. This solar eclipse from the group of poems published in December. Okay. Oh, that's a detail. Okay. I'm not going to read the etymology or the derivation of the poems for you. You'll have to read those yourself. But when you do read them, you'll see clues and teasers in the etymology that I weave into the poem. Okay. Solar eclipse. The partial or total apparent darkening of the sun when the moon comes between it and the earth. It's when language goes missing, but we can read the universe. As at the onset, the wind rises, the temperature drops, the diminishing light glows an oblique yellow. The birds shelter and hush, while the crickets shrill in the brush, and every tree leaf casts its own moon at our feet. What we begin to understand now is what we don't know. For in no time, each person is a poem on the frontier of dream. Each person a moment in an infinite night. No one, nobody, not a soul, not anyone, not a single person, never a one. None can know why the sun persists. The Dictionary Poem Project is an ever-expanding list of words with pronunciations, etymologies, definitions, graphics, and other information. Each word's meaning evolves from its standard origin and definition, finally becoming a dictionary poem. that is more associative and poetic than a particular word's conventional meaning. It's something like jazz, where I start from a literal place and then riff off, expanding the word's standard melody beyond itself. For me, the Dictionary Poem Project is the starting point for an experience, a journey into the center of language, design, and the human condition. This particular form of the dictionary poem originated with me. My idea hatched spontaneously as I was finishing up constructing a three-dimensional piece for donation to an auction at a fundraiser for River Styx. The piece was titled Writer's Block. Well, actually, this is a recently constructed one because I think I gave away the first one and I couldn't find any photographs. So thanks to my husband for drilling the holes. While I finished inserting the pencils into the wooden block, the thought occurred to me to look up writer and block in the dictionary. It was such a strong impulse, I grabbed the dictionary I had in my studio. Almost immediately, I became obsessed with tracking down all sorts of connections, from the origin of the two words, writer and block, to the pathways of meaning that opened up for me, leading to unexpected and, it seemed to me, ever more wondrous associations, as well as to the frustration of slammed doors and unexpected dead ends. Right away, the process became an intriguing exploration into language and the human condition. With the text for Writer's Block complete, I found imagery that complemented and added to the text. Here is that original Writer's Block. Writer's Block. The inability to form or transcribe words, letters, symbols, etc. on a surface by cutting, carving, or especially marking with a pen or a pencil. A sudden interruption in language resulting from an obstruction or hindrance. A blocking of the passages of impulses through cranial nerves. The sudden cessation of oscillations of an oscillator accompanied by a high plate current. A stoppage of output caused by overloading the input. No output after 3 stanzas. Tearing of flesh. Cannot communicate by means of necessary writing. Maybe a letter or a note. She writes herself, leaving him to underwrite. Marks, signs, evidence, or symbols. Something scratched in stone, not clear, as nothing was written on his face. Once again, her silence. No other literary matter produced. Words like mutinous soldiers, stories that won't begin themselves or end. Well, I finish, let's see here. Subsequently, when other words found me, or I found them, the word and I tested each other to see if we could work together. If together we muddled our way into deep language, our collaboration resulted in the text for a new dictionary poem. After I'd completed 6 poems, I collaborated on the design for a set of texts with images with my sister, Sarah Birdsall. At the time, Sarah was a graphic designer and professor at WashU, whose focus was typography. She chose a font and suggested that we work within a set format now that I was dealing with multiples. Dictionary Poem Project 1 was the result of our collaboration, where Sarah set the type and together we worked on the images. Ride is one of those poems. Ride. To sit on and be carried along in a horse in motion. Later sense, to be carried along in or on or in a vehicle or conveyance, as in a ship at sea. The momentum of indeterminate origin, unnamed forces affecting the passengers' destinies. When the ship fails to ride out the storm, one lone survivor surfaces, moving by way of an intangible force, across the water as a means of escape in order to begin again. She disappears herself for a time, looks for an opening, a road home, a path out, or a ride into another life. By the time I'd secured a grant for the development of a second edition of the Dictionary Poem Project, Sarah had retired completely as a graphic designer. At this point, I moved ahead on my own. I chose to retain the same format and font as the edition 1, and to find and select the imagery for edition 2 myself. This is the second set is the one printed here in December. Full disclosure, for edition 2, I had expert tech and design support in formatting the digital image files and typesetting from Tim, excuse me, from Tim and Stacy McCandless, two of Sarah's former students. So the connection goes on. Map is another one of those, of the ones that are in addition to. Map. Any type of chart meant to guide us along our way. As a drawing of the Earth's surface, showing countries, cities, lakes, mountains, down to the smallest creeks and roads. A similar representation of the sky, showing the position of the stars and planets. Imagine, too, a map of infinite space, where black holes consume light. Now view a map of the deep, showing ancient volcanoes and mountain ranges under the sea. See where the fault lines open like black holes beneath the Earth's crust? Yes, even in Missouri, the ground trembles along its faults, while around the globe, uncharted strangers constellate to hold on to another night. Lastly, I have a note about the literary historical context for the Dictionary Poem Project. As many of you know, the majority of poems with which most of us are familiar are meant to be read and listened to. For the most part, they are intrinsically musical. However, there is a type of poetry that originated in Brazil in the 1950s called concrete poetry, where the arrangement of the words on the page is as important as the textual content. American poets such as John Hollander and Mae Swenson made use of this form. I would say my dictionary poems are akin to concrete poetry, because if listened to without seeing the visual component, a substantial amount of the effect is lost. Each dictionary poem is a balance between language and image. It is poetry that is meant to be seen, poetry that presupposes a viewer as well as a reader. And I want to thank all of you, and I sometimes choose hallmarky kinds of words, and then I try to do something with it that won't be a cliche. Hopefully. Thank you. To give one's thanks, original sense, to express appreciation or gratitude to the person or persons to whom one is speaking or writing. As you may say thank you to your lover, to your neighbors, or to a perfect stranger. Some think the sound of rain on the leaves, others draw a blank. I thank the most humble grain of sand holding strong under my boot. I thank the universe itself. Say thank you, moon. Thank you, stars. Thank goodness itself. Thank you.